Before we begin, if you're enjoying these stories from law enforcement across America, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps us continue sharing these accounts. And I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. Now, let's get into tonight's story. My name is Sarah Benally, and I've been working as a police officer for the Navajo Nation Police Department for over 9 years. The incident I'm about to tell you about took place in the fall of 1991, and I still don't fully understand it. But even if no one believes me, I need to tell someone. I grew up in the Navajo Nation, in a small community near the town of Shiprock, New Mexico. If you've never seen Shiprock before, it's hard to describe. Imagine a massive volcanic formation rising about 1,600 feet above the high desert floor, with rugged rock walls that look like the wings of an ancient stone ship. In the Navajo language, this is called Tsebit-ai, meaning winged rock. According to our legends, this rock is the remains of a giant bird that brought our ancestors to these lands. It's sacred, it's forbidden to climb. And people who ignore that warning tend to have very bad things happen to them. I joined the tribal police force in 1988. Fresh out of the academy, idealistic, and eager to serve my community. My grandmother didn't approve. She said I was walking between two worlds, the traditional Navajo way and the modern Bila way, and that kind of walking could make you lose your balance. She was right, but not in the way she thought. By 1991, I'd been on the force for 3 years. I'd handled domestic disputes, DUIs, livestock theft, the usual reservation crimes. Nothing prepared me for what started on the night of October 1st. I was working the evening shift, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., patrolling the area around Shiprock. It was a Tuesday, unseasonably cold for early October, with a wind that cut through your jacket and made the sagebrush rattle like bones. I'd just stopped at the trading post in Shiprock Town for coffee when the call came through. Unit 7, we have a report of a missing hiker. White male, mid-30s, name of David Fenton. Last seen this morning heading toward the Shiprock formation. Wife just reported him overdue. I grabbed my radio. Unit 7, copy. Do we have a description of what he was wearing? Red jacket, blue jeans, hiking boots. Wife says he's an experienced hiker but doesn't know the area. I felt my stomach tighten. Experienced hikers were often the ones who got into the worst trouble because they were overconfident. And if he'd been heading toward Shiprock, there were dozens of arroyos and canyons where someone could fall or get lost. Unit 7 responding. Estimated time to staging area, 15 minutes. I drove out toward the rock as the sun was setting, painting the massive formation in shades of orange and red. Even after living in its shadow my whole life, Shiprock never failed to make me feel small. There's something about it that goes beyond its physical size. It has a presence, a weight that presses on you. I met the wife, Catherine Fenton, at the pull-off where they'd parked that morning. She was in her early 30s, blonde, clearly from out of state. Probably tourists doing the Southwest Circuit. She was trying to hold it together but failing. He just wanted to get some photographs, she said, voice shaking. We were told not to climb it, but he wasn't going to climb. Just wanted to get closer for better pictures. He had his camera, his water bottle, said he'd be back in an hour. That was 10 hours ago. Did he say which direction he was heading? East, I think, toward the sunrise side. He said something about the light being better there in the morning. East, the direction of beginnings in Navajo cosmology. The direction of the white shell. I called for additional units in search and rescue, but I knew they were at least an hour away. I couldn't wait that long. If Fenton was injured, every minute mattered. Mrs. Fenton, I want you to stay here with the vehicle. More officers are coming. I'm going to start searching the eastern approach. Please find him. Please. I grabbed my flashlight, radio, and first aid kit and started walking east toward Shiprock. The sun had set completely now, and the temperature was dropping fast. Desert cold isn't like other cold. It comes up from the ground and down from the sky at the same time, surrounding you. I followed what looked like a well-used trail, probably made by tourists like Fenton who wanted photographs. The beam of my flashlight caught carvings in some of the rocks, petroglyphs left by ancient peoples, spirals, handprints, figures that might have been humans or spirits. I'd been walking for about 20 minutes when I saw the red jacket. He was lying in a small clearing about 100 yards from the base of Shiprock, flat on his back, arms spread wide. Even from a distance, I could tell something was wrong with the way he was positioned. Too perfect, too deliberate. "Mr. Fenton," I called out, breaking into a run. "David Fenton, can you hear me?" No response. I reached him and knelt down, checking for a pulse. Nothing. His skin was cold, far colder than it should have been after just 10 hours, even in October. His eyes were open, staring up at the stars, and there was an expression on his face I'll never forget. Not fear, not pain, something else. Recognition, maybe, or acceptance. I radioed for medical response even though I knew it was too late, and that's when I noticed the arrangement. His body was positioned perfectly perpendicular to Shiprock, head pointing east, feet pointing west. His arms were spread exactly 90 degrees from his body. Perfect symmetry. And around him, carved into the hard desert soil, was a symbol. It looked like a cross inside a circle, with 4 lines radiating outward from the center. I'd seen something similar in ceremonial designs, but this was different, more precise, almost geometric. I stepped back to get a better view, and that's when I saw it wasn't just carved into the ground. The dirt around the symbol was darker, almost black, and when I shined my light on it, I realized it wasn't dirt at all. It was ash. Someone had burned this symbol into the ground, with David Fenton at its center. My hand went to my service weapon instinctively, and I scanned the area, looking for any sign of who might have done this. But there was nothing. Just empty desert, the looming presence of Shiprock, and the sound of the wind. I looked back at Fenton's body. No visible injuries, no blood, no signs of struggle. But something had killed him and positioned him here in this specific way, facing this specific direction. I was about to radio for immediate backup when I noticed something in his jacket pocket. The corner of a small recorder, the kind reporters or students use. I carefully pulled it out and hit rewind, then play. Fenton's voice came through, slightly breathless, excited. "October 1st, approximately 4 p.m. I'm about a quarter mile from Shiprock now. The light is perfect. Catherine's going to love these shots." A pause, the sound of footsteps on gravel. "There's something here. Some kind of pattern in the rocks. Looks ceremonial. Getting closer to document it." Another pause, longer this time. "That's strange." There's a woman standing near the rock formation. I didn't see her approach, she's just standing there, facing the rock, not moving. My grip on the recorder tightened. "Ma'am? Hello? Are you okay?" More footsteps, faster now. "She's not responding." I'm getting closer. "Wait, that's not..." "She's not..." Static, then a sound I couldn't identify. Not quite a scream, not quite a gasp. Something in between. Then Fenton's voice again, but different. Distant. Dreamlike. "She's already there." At the center. She's already there. How is she already there? More static, and then silence except for the sound of wind on the recorder's microphone. Then, just before the recording ended, a woman's voice. Clear, calm, speaking Navajo. I recognized some of the words: Yogai, white shell, Ha'a'a, east, and Saad, word or voice. The recording ended. I stood there in the dark, holding the recorder, my hand shaking. A woman. Fenton had seen a woman before he died, and that voice at the end, speaking Navajo, calm as if she were reciting a prayer or a story. The medical response team arrived 45 minutes later, along with 2 other tribal officers, Tom Begay and Rita Yazzie. They were both older than me, experienced, people I respected. Tom took one look at the scene and swore softly in Navajo. Rita just stood there staring at the symbol burned into the ground. "Have you ever seen anything like this?" I asked them. Tom shook his head. "The positioning, yes. The 4 directions. But not like this, not with fire, not with—" He gestured at Fenton's body. "Not with this." Rita was more forthcoming. "This is ceremonial. Someone performed a ritual here, or ... quote. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Something did. What kind of ritual? She didn't answer right away. She walked around the perimeter of the burned symbol, careful not to disturb anything, examining it from different angles. "The 4 directions are sacred," she finally said. "East is the direction of thinking, of planning. It's associated with white shell and the dawn, this positioning, this precision. Someone who knew the old ways did this, or wants us to think they did." "I found a recorder on the body," I said. "He documented his last hour. He mentioned seeing a woman near Shiprock, said something about her being already there." Tom and Rita exchanged a look. "We should listen to it," Tom said. I played the recording for them. As Fenton's final words echoed across the desert, I watched their faces. Tom's expression grew darker. Rita's eyes widened. When the Navajo voice spoke at the end, Rita grabbed my arm. "Play that again." I rewound and played the final 30 seconds again. "That's not just Navajo," Rita said quietly. "That's Old Navajo. Traditional phrasing, the kind my grandmother's grandmother would have used. What's she saying?" Rita listened carefully, then translated. "In the white shell of dawn, the first voice speaks. The eastern path opens. 4 shall walk, 1 shall stand. The center awaits." The words sent a chill through me that had nothing to do with the October cold. "It's a prophecy," Tom said, "or a warning, or both." We spent the next 3 hours processing the scene. The medical examiner arrived and confirmed what I already knew. David Fenton was dead, cause unknown, no visible trauma. His body temperature was far lower than it should have been, as if he'd been dead for days, not hours. The symbol burned into the ground was measured and photographed. Perfect geometry. Perfect alignment with Shiprock and the cardinal directions. The ash was collected for analysis, though I doubted it would tell us anything useful. By the time we finished, it was nearly 3 a.m. I was exhausted, cold, and deeply unsettled. Catherine Fenton had been informed of her husband's death. She'd collapsed, screaming, asking us how this could happen, who could have done this to her husband. We had no answers. I drove back to the station as dawn was breaking, the sky turning pink and gold over the desert. Shiprock rose black against the sunrise, that massive stone ship that had guarded this land for millions of years. I filed my report, trying to document everything I'd seen and heard without sounding insane. Missing hiker found dead, suspicious circumstances, possible homicide, investigation ongoing. But I knew it was more than that. The precision of the positioning, the burned symbol, the recording, that voice speaking in Old Navajo. This wasn't a random killing. This was deliberate. This was ceremonial. And something told me it wasn't over. I went home to my small house on the edge of Shiprock town, exhausted but unable to sleep. I kept hearing Fenton's voice on that recording. She's already there. At the center, she's already there. Already where? The center of what? I finally fell asleep around noon, and I dreamed. In the dream, I was standing in the desert, facing Shiprock. The sun was setting, painting the rock in shades of red like blood. A woman stood before me, her back to me, wearing traditional Navajo dress. She was facing the rock, completely still. "Ma'am?" I called out in the dream. "Are you okay?" She didn't turn around. Instead, she raised her right arm and pointed at Shiprock. 4 lines of light shot out from the peak, stretching across the desert in perfect alignment with the 4 cardinal directions: east, south, west, north. Then she spoke, in that same voice from the recording, 4 shall walk, 1 shall stand. The center awaits. She turned to face me, and I saw her face. It was my face. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat despite the cold. The sun was setting. I'd slept the entire day. My phone was ringing. It was Tom. "Sarah, we've got another one." My heart sank. Another missing person? Found dead. 2 hours ago. Same positioning, same burn marks. He paused. "Sarah, this one was found south of Shiprock, facing the rock. Same as Fenton, but in a different direction. South, the direction of turquoise, the direction of planning and life. I'm on my way." I got dressed and drove back to Shiprock, my mind racing. 2 bodies, 2 directions, east and south. The pattern was forming, and I didn't like where it was leading. Because if someone was placing bodies in the 4 sacred directions around Shiprock, that meant 2 more were coming. West and north, and then the center. 4 shall walk, 1 shall stand. The center awaits. As I drove through the gathering darkness toward Shiprock, toward another death scene, toward another piece of this terrible puzzle, I couldn't shake the image from my dream. The woman with my face, pointing at the rock. Speaking words I didn't understand, but somehow knew were meant for me. I was a police officer. I dealt in facts, in evidence, in rational explanations. But I was also Navajo, and I knew that some things in this world don't follow the rules we want them to follow. Some things are older than our understanding, deeper than our laws. Shiprock loomed ahead of me in the twilight, that sacred, forbidden rock, and somewhere in its shadow, someone or something was leaving bodies in the 4 directions. I had a terrible feeling I knew who would be standing at the center when this was all over. The woman from my dream. The woman with my face. Myself. The second victim was Maria Gonzalez, a 28-year-old teacher from Albuquerque who'd come to Shiprock on a photography expedition. Just like David Fenton. Just like dozens of tourists who visit the formation every year, looking for that perfect shot. That Instagram moment, that story to tell their friends. But Maria Gonzalez would never tell her story. Because when I arrived at the scene, 2 miles south of Shiprock, she was lying in the exact same position as Fenton. On her back, arms spread at perfect 90-degree angles, head pointing toward the rock. Around her, burned into the desert floor, was the same symbol. A cross in a circle, 4 lines radiating outward. Only this time, the ash was darker, almost blue-black. Tom and Rita were already there, along with the medical response team. The sun had fully set now, and the scene was lit by harsh portable lights that made the shadows twist and dance. Rita was standing at the edge of the burned symbol, not speaking, just staring. "Same as yesterday?" I asked Tom as I approached. He nodded grimly. "Same positioning, same symbol, same impossible situation. No witnesses, no signs of struggle, no visible cause of death. She was reported missing this morning by the friend she was traveling with. They were staying in Farmington. Maria wanted to get sunrise shots of Shiprock, came out here alone, never came back. Does she have a recorder? Checked already. Nothing, but there's this. He handed me a digital camera in an evidence bag. Found it next to the body. Last photo was taken at 7:14 this morning. I looked at the camera's small screen. The last image showed Shiprock at dawn, the rising sun painting it gold and pink. Beautiful, peaceful, normal. Scroll back, Tom said. I pressed the review button. The second-to-last photo made my breath catch. It was the same view of Shiprock taken maybe 30 seconds before the final shot. But in this one, there was a figure. A woman standing at the base of the rock formation, her back to the camera. Zoom in, Rita said, appearing at my shoulder. I zoomed in as much as the camera would allow. The figure was too far away for facial details, but I could make out what she was wearing. Traditional Navajo dress, dark-colored, with a silver concho belt catching the morning light, and she was standing in a position I recognized. Facing the rock, right arm raised, pointing. Exactly like in my dream. There's more, Tom said. He pulled out another evidence bag, this one containing a small piece of paper. Found this in her pocket. It's a note, handwritten. I took the bag and read the note through the plastic. If you're reading this, something has gone wrong. I've been having the same dream for 3 nights. A woman in traditional dress standing at Shiprock pointing at something. She speaks to me in a language I don't understand, but somehow I know what she's saying. South is the direction of planning. The turquoise guides the living to the sacred. Last night, the dream changed. She turned to face me, and I saw her face. It was my own face. I know this sounds crazy, but I feel compelled to go to Shiprock, to find the place from my dream, to understand what it means. If I don't come back, tell my family I love them. Maria Gonzalez, October 2nd, 1991. I lowered the note, my hands shaking slightly. She knew. She knew something was going to happen to her. And she came anyway, Rita said quietly. The dreams compel them. Just like the old stories. The rock calls, and some people can't resist the call. We need to go public with this, I said. Warn people to stay away from Shiprock. Whatever's happening here, it's targeting people who come to photograph it. The FBI is already involved, Tom said. 2 deaths, possible serial killer, they'll be here by morning. But Sarah... He hesitated. You need to hear the rest of what Rita found. Rita pulled out her own notebook. Her handwriting covered several pages, and I could see she'd been doing research. After last night, I couldn't sleep, she began. So, I went to see my grandmother. She's 94, lives in Red Valley, knows all the old stories. I asked her about ceremonies involving the 4 directions and Shiprock. What did she say? She didn't want to talk about it at first. Said some stories shouldn't be told, especially not about Sebitai, but I pressed her, told her people were dying. Finally, she told me. Rita took a breath. There's an old story, from before the Long Walk, before the white people came. About a time when the balance was broken, when someone tried to use the sacred for their own power. A medicine person, corrupted by their own knowledge. They performed a ceremony at Shiprock, trying to open a path to the spirit world. The ceremony required 4 offerings, placed in the 4 sacred directions. East, south, west, north. White shell, turquoise, abalone, jet black. I felt cold spreading through my chest. Offerings. What kind of offerings? Rita met my eyes. lives. 4 lives, given willingly or taken, and then the one who performed the ceremony would stand at the center, at the 5th direction, and the path would open. The 5th direction? Time, Rita said. The center of the spiral. Past and future meeting in the eternal now. That's what the old ones called it. And my grandmother said the ceremony was never completed. The medicine person was stopped before they could stand at the center. But the power they'd raised didn't dissipate. It stayed there, at Shiprock, waiting, calling, drawing people who are sensitive to it, people who dream, people who seek. Tom spoke up. She also said that every few generations, the power builds again, tries to complete itself, uses whoever it can to finish what was started centuries ago. And you think that's what's happening now? I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. 2 bodies, Rita said, east and south, white shell and turquoise. If the pattern continues, we'll find a 3rd body west of Shiprock, direction of abalone shell, direction of life and relationships, and then a 4th north, direction of jet black, direction of death and old age. And then someone stands at the center, I finished. 4 shall walk, 1 shall stand. We stood in silence for a moment, the wind picking up around us, carrying the smell of sage and something else, something older, something wrong. The medical examiner approached, a young DNA woman named Dr. Alice Benally, no relation to me despite the shared surname. Her expression was troubled. "I can give you a preliminary," she said, "but you're not going to like it. Cause of death is impossible to determine. No trauma, no toxins in the initial screening, no signs of heart attack or stroke. But her core body temperature is 72 degrees. She should be at ambient temperature by now, around 50 degrees. It's like she died just minutes ago, even though rigor mortis indicates at least 8 hours. And there's something else." "What?" Dr. Benally pulled out her tablet and showed us a thermal image of Maria's body. I took this with the IR camera. Look at the pattern. The thermal image showed Maria's body in shades of blue and purple, except for 4 bright spots. 1 at her head, 1 at each hand, and 1 at her feet. They formed a perfect cross pattern, still radiating heat. "Those points are still 98.6 degrees, Dr. Benally said. "Normal body temperature. Only at those 4 exact points. The rest of her is cold. It's as if—" She struggled for the words. "As if her life force is still here, just concentrated in those 4 directions." Rita made a sound, something between a gasp and a prayer. She pulled out her notebook and showed Dr. Benally a quick sketch she'd made. It matched the thermal pattern exactly. The 4 sacred directions. "This isn't a serial killer," Rita said. "This is the ceremony completing itself. Using these people as fuel, as anchors in the 4 directions. Their life force is being held here trapped, forming a pattern around Shiprock." "Then we stop it," I said, forcing confidence into my voice. "We close the area, keep people away, break the pattern." "You can't break it," Rita said softly. "It's already started. The only way to stop it is to prevent the 3rd and 4th deaths, and the center." Tom's radio crackled. "Unit 7, Unit 3, any units in the Shiprock area. We have a report of another missing person. James Mitchell, age 42, from Texas. Wife reports he went for a sunset hike west of Shiprock 3 hours ago. Hasn't returned. West, the direction of abalone, the direction of life." We all looked at each other, the same thought running through our minds. "He's already dead," Rita whispered. "The pattern is accelerating." I grabbed my radio. "All units, this is Officer Benally. We need search teams west of Shiprock immediately. Consider this a potential homicide investigation. No one approaches Shiprock Formation itself without backup. Repeat, no one approaches the rock. But even as I gave the orders, I knew it was too late for James Mitchell. The ceremony was building momentum, feeding on itself. East at dawn, south at morning, west at sunset. The pattern of the sun's journey across the sky, the eternal cycle. And that meant north would be at midnight. Tonight. We split up. Tom and 2 other officers headed west to search for Mitchell. Rita stayed at the south scene to coordinate with the FBI agents who were en route. I drove back to the station to brief the captain and organize additional resources. But as I drove through the darkness, past Shiprock's looming silhouette, I couldn't stop thinking about the dreams. Fenton had seen a woman in his last moments. Maria had dreamed about a woman for 3 nights before her death, and I had dreamed of a woman with my face pointing at the rock. When I got to the station, I sat in my patrol car for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts. My phone buzzed, a text from my grandmother, which was unusual. She rarely used her phone. "Granddaughter, I heard about the deaths. You need to come see me. Tonight. There are things you must know, things about our family." I stared at the message, unease crawling up my spine. I texted back, "I'm working a case. Can it wait?" Her response came immediately. "No. Your mother should have told you years ago. Come now, before it's too late. Before you stand at the center. Before I stand at the center." My hands went numb. How could she know? How could she possibly know about the prophecy, about the 5th direction, about any of this? I called Tom. "I need to take an hour. Family emergency. Call me the second you find Mitchell." "Sarah, we need all hands." "I know. 1 hour, I promise." I drove to my grandmother's house on the north side of the reservation, a traditional hogan she'd lived in for 60 years. She was waiting for me on the porch, wrapped in a blanket despite the cold, her face grave. "Grandma, what's this about?" She didn't greet me, didn't ask how I was doing, just gestured for me to come inside. The hogan was warm from the wood stove, filled with the smell of cedar smoke and coffee. She poured me a cup and sat down across from me. "Your great-great-grandmother," she began without preamble, "was a medicine woman. Powerful, respected. She knew the old ways, the ceremonies, the songs. But she had a sister, a twin sister. And twins in the old days were considered dangerous. 2 souls that should have been one, split at birth. The connection between them was strong, too strong." I sipped the coffee, waiting for her to continue. "The twin sister was jealous of your great-great-grandmother's power. She wanted to be medicine woman too, but she didn't have the gift. So she tried to take it. She performed a ceremony at Sebitai, the ceremony of the 4 directions, trying to open a path to the spirit world where she could steal the power she craved." The coffee cup felt heavy in my hands. "What happened?" "Your great-great-grandmother stopped her. But not before 3 people had died, placed in 3 of the 4 directions. East, south, west. The 4th direction, north, was never completed. Your great-great-grandmother confronted her twin sister at midnight, at the base of Shiprock, and there was a battle. Not with weapons, but with songs, with power. In the end, the twin was destroyed. But your great-great-grandmother was changed by what happened. The ceremony, even incomplete, had marked her family line. Every generation since then has produced a woman with the gift. A woman who can see between worlds, who dreams true dreams. I set down the coffee cup before I dropped it. "Are you saying I have this gift?" "I'm saying you've always had it. The dreams you had as a child, the feelings you get about places and people. You're the 7th generation from your great-great-grandmother. 7 is a powerful number. And this is the 7th time the ceremony has tried to complete itself since that night. Every generation it tries again. uses different people, different victims, but it always calls to the one who carries the blood, calls to the one who could stand at the center. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? Your mother didn't believe. She rejected the old ways, moved to the city, tried to be modern. She thought if she didn't tell you, you'd never know, never be called. But blood doesn't forget. Power doesn't forget. Grandma, 3 people are dead. Maybe 4. There's going to be a 4th body north of Shiprock tonight. And then someone stands at the center, she finished. And if it's the wrong person, if it's someone the ceremony chooses rather than someone who chooses to stand there, the path will open. And what comes through? She shook her head. Your great-great-grandmother told stories before she died. Stories about what lives in the space between worlds, things that hunger, things that were never meant to touch our world. My radio crackled. Tom's voice tight with stress. Sarah, we found Mitchell. West of Shiprock, same positioning, same burns. He's dead. But Sarah, there's something else. We found footprints near the body, small prints, a woman's boots, leading from Mitchell's body directly toward Shiprock. I'm on my way, I said into the radio. I stood up to leave, but my grandmother grabbed my wrist. Listen to me. If you go to Shiprock tonight, if you're there when the 4th body is placed, you'll be called to the center. The ceremony will recognize your blood, your connection to what started this. You'll have a choice. Stand at the center and close the path, or refuse and let the ceremony choose someone else. But closing the path requires sacrifice. It always has. What kind of sacrifice? She didn't answer, just pulled me into a tight embrace, something she rarely did. Be strong, granddaughter. Be worthy of your ancestors. And remember, the center is not a place. It's a choice. I drove back toward Shiprock at full speed, my mind reeling. 3 bodies placed, 3 directions completed. East at dawn, south at morning, west at sunset. And if the pattern held, north would be at midnight, just over 2 hours from now. When I arrived at the west scene, it was chaos. FBI agents had arrived, including a special agent named Martinez who immediately tried to take over the investigation. Tom and Rita were arguing with him, insisting this wasn't a normal case, that he didn't understand the cultural elements at play. James Mitchell lay in the same position as the others, arms spread, perfectly aligned, facing Shiprock. The burned symbol around him glowed faintly blue in the darkness, like heat still trapped in the earth. His camera was beside him, last photo showing the same thing as Maria's, a woman in traditional dress standing at the base of Shiprock, her back to the camera, and the footprints. Small boots, women's size 7 or 8, leading from Mitchell's body directly toward the rock formation about a mile away. We need to follow those tracks, Agent Martinez said. Could be our killer. It's not a killer, Rita said firmly. It's the ceremony itself, manifesting. You can't arrest a ceremony. That's ridiculous. Someone is killing these people and staging the bodies. Someone with knowledge of Navajo ceremonial practices. We follow the tracks, we find our suspect. I looked at Rita and Tom. We all knew what those tracks meant. Someone was walking the pattern, completing the ceremony, walking from direction to direction, following the sun's path, east to south to west, and the tracks led toward the rock because that's where the 4th direction waited. North, the direction of jet black, the direction of death and completion. How many officers do we have available? I asked Tom. 6, including us, plus the FBI has another 4 agents. We need to form a perimeter around Shiprock, north side, approximately 2 miles out. That's where the 4th victim will be placed if the pattern continues, and we need to do it now. Martinez objected, but I didn't have time to argue. I radioed the other officers and gave them coordinates, forming a loose circle around the northern approach to Shiprock. If someone was going to place another body there, they'd have to go through us. Rita pulled me aside. "Sarah, you talked to your grandmother." It wasn't a question. Somehow she knew. "Yes, then you know what's coming. You know who the ceremony will call." "Maybe. I don't know. I don't understand any of this." "You don't have to understand. You just have to choose. When the moment comes, you'll know what to do." We took positions at the northern perimeter at 11:15 p.m., 45 minutes until midnight. The night was clear and cold, the stars so bright they cast shadows. Shiprock rose black against the sky, a darkness darker than the night itself. I was stationed at the eastern edge of the northern perimeter, about 2 miles from the rock's base. Tom was a quarter-mile to my west. Rita was back at the command post coordinating communications. The FBI agents were spread out along the perimeter, skeptical but following orders, 11:30 p.m. Nothing, just wind and darkness, and the sound of my own breathing. 11:45 p.m. Movement on the radio. Agent Martinez reporting possible activity, footsteps, something moving in the darkness. Then static. "Martinez, repeat. What's your position?" Rita's voice on the radio, tense. No response. "All units, converge on Martinez's last known position. North Perimeter, Sector 4. I ran through the darkness, flashlight bouncing, radio clutched in my hand. Other lights appeared, other officers running toward the same point. We found Martinez's vehicle, driver's door open, lights still on. But no Martinez. And there, in the dirt, clearly visible in our flashlights, boot prints. Small, women's size 7 or 8, leading away from the vehicle toward Shiprock, and next to them, larger prints, Martinez's boots. Following, or being led. Tom reached me, breathing hard. "Sarah, it's midnight." As if the universe was confirming his words, the church bells in Shiprock town began to toll in the distance. Midnight, the witching hour, the completion of the daily cycle. And then we saw it. A glow, faint but growing, coming from the north base of Shiprock. Blue-white light, like fire that had no heat, rising from the ground. We ran toward it, all of us, law enforcement training abandoned in the face of something we couldn't explain. The light grew brighter as we approached, and I could see it was coming from the ground, from another symbol burned into the earth. And in the center of that symbol lay Agent Martinez. On his back, arms spread, facing Shiprock. The fourth direction, the north. The jet black, the completion. But he was still alive. Barely. His eyes were open, staring at the stars, and his lips were moving. I knelt beside him. "Martinez, can you hear me?" "Who did this?" His lips moved, no sound at first, then a whisper. "She was at the center. Already there, she's been there, the whole time. Waiting." His eyes focused on me. "She has your face." Then he stopped breathing. I stood up slowly, my whole body cold. 4 bodies, 4 directions, the pattern complete. And in that moment, I felt it. A pull, like invisible hands on my shoulders, turning me toward the Shiprock, toward the center, the space between the 4 directions, the heart of the pattern. I started walking. I couldn't stop myself. My feet moved without my conscious will, carrying me toward the rock. "Sarah, don't!" Tom's voice behind me. "Sarah, stop!" But I couldn't. The pull was too strong. I walked through the desert, past sagebrush and stones directly toward Shiprock. Behind me, I could hear others following, shouting, but their voices seemed distant, unimportant. The 4 symbols around the rock began to glow brighter, forming lines of light that stretched from each direction toward the center. East, south, west, north. 4 lines of pure light converging at a single point at the base of Shiprock. And standing at that point, exactly where the lines met, was a woman. She wore traditional Navajo dress, dark with silver. Her back was to me. She stood perfectly still, facing the rock. I walked closer. The pull was overwhelming now, drawing me toward the center, toward her, toward the completion of something that had begun over a century ago. When I was 20 feet away, she spoke. Her voice was my voice. 4 have walked. Now 1 must stand. The center awaits, Sarah Benally. It has always awaited you. She turned to face me, and I saw what I had known I would see, what the dreams had shown me, what my grandmother had tried to warn me about. It was me, not a twin, not a relative, not someone who looked like me. Me. Exactly me. Same face, same eyes, same body. Except her eyes were empty, black from edge to edge, and when she smiled, I saw something behind that smile that was not human and never had been. "Welcome to the center," she said. "Welcome to the choice. Welcome to the end of the cycle and the beginning of everything that comes after." I stood facing myself, 20 feet away from the impossible. Behind me, I could hear Tom and the others running, shouting, but they seemed to be moving through water, their voices distorted and slow. The 4 lines of light had created a barrier, a circle around the center point where where it stood. "What are you?" I managed to ask, though my voice sounded strange to my own ears. The thing with my face tilted her head, studying me with those black eyes. "I am the question you never asked. The path you didn't take. The choice that created all other choices." She gestured around us at the 4 glowing lines. "Your great-great-grandmother's twin tried to open a door. She failed, but in failing, she created something else. A space between what is and what could be, a mirror. And mirrors, Sarah, they reflect. They copy. They wait. You're not real. You're just some kind of projection, some energy from the ceremony. I'm as real as you are. Perhaps more real. Because I've been here, at the center, since the moment your ancestors stopped the ceremony, waiting for the pattern to complete, waiting for the 7th generation, waiting for you." Tom's voice broke through, somehow penetrating the barrier. "Sarah! Don't listen to it. It's trying to trick you." The thing smiled again. "Trick you? Number. I'm offering you a choice. The same choice that's been offered 7 times before. Stand at the center, become the 5th direction, close the door permanently. Or refuse, and let something else take your place. Let the door stay open. Let what waits on the other side finally come through." What's on the other side? Everything that could have been but wasn't. Every possibility, every path not taken, every person who almost existed. They're hungry, Sarah. So hungry. They want to be real. They want to exist. And if the door opens, they'll pour through. They'll replace this world with all the worlds that might have been. Reality itself will fracture, and nothing will be certain anymore. I thought about what Rita had said, what my grandmother had told me. The ceremony of the 4 directions, trying to complete itself every generation. 4 sacrifices and then someone standing at the center. The 5th direction, time, the eternal now. What happens if I stand at the center? You become the anchor, the point around which all possibilities revolve. You hold the door closed forever. Forever? Time doesn't work the same way at the center, Sarah. At the 5th direction, you exist in all moments simultaneously. Past, present, future, all at once. You'll stand here, holding the pattern, until the end of all things. Conscious, aware, alone. A sacrifice. That's what my grandmother had meant. Not death, but something worse. Eternal existence as a fixed point, a barrier between worlds. And if I refuse, the thing gestured at itself. Then I become real. I step into your place, into your life. I walk away from here as Sarah Benally, tribal police officer, and you cease to exist. Not dead, just never having been, replaced by the possibility that I represent. What possibility is that? The Sarah who made different choices. The Sarah who embraced the gift, who learned the old ways, who didn't fear what she was. The Sarah your grandmother wanted you to be. Your mother tried to hide you from this, tried to make you normal. But I am what you could have been, what you should have been. I looked at the 4 glowing lines, at the symbols burning at their endpoints, at the impossible geometry of it all. Why me? Why does it have to be a member of my family? Because your ancestor started this. Her blood opened the door. Her blood must close it. The pattern recognizes you. It calls to you. You can feel it, can't you? The pull towards the center. It's been pulling you your whole life. Every dream, every strange feeling, every moment when you knew something before it happened. That was the center calling. Behind the barrier, I could see Tom and Rita and the others trying to break through, their flashlights creating strange shadows. Dr. Benally was there too, and several FBI agents, all of them fighting against something they couldn't see, couldn't understand. How long do I have to decide? Until dawn. The ceremony follows the sun's cycle. It began at dawn yesterday when David Fenton was placed at the eastern point. It will end at dawn today when you make your choice. 4 hours, Sarah. 4 hours to decide if you want to exist. The thing stepped aside, revealing the exact center point where the 4 lines met. There was nothing physically there, just dirt and rock. But I could feel something, a concentration of energy, a weight that had nothing to do with gravity. If I stand there, I'll be trapped forever. You'll be free forever. Free from time, from change, from death. You'll exist in the eternal moment, holding the door closed, protecting a world that will never know you did. No one will remember you, Sarah. The pattern will rewrite itself. Your friends, your family, they'll remember a different Sarah, the one I become, or they'll remember no Sarah at all. The ceremony erases the anchor, that's the price. I looked at my hands, solid and real in the strange light. I thought about my life. 28 years old, a tribal police officer living in the same small town where I grew up. My mother, who didn't understand me. My grandmother, who knew too much. Tom and Rita, the closest things I had to real friends. Not much of a life, maybe, but it was mine. Can I see them? The other side? What's waiting to come through? The thing's expression changed, becoming almost sympathetic. You don't want to see, trust me. They're not evil, not exactly. They're just desperate. Imagine being almost real, almost existing, forever trapped in the space between possibility and actuality. That desperation becomes something else over time, something hungry, something that would consume this entire world just to have a moment of being real. The sky was beginning to lighten in the east, just barely. Dawn was coming, the end of the cycle. I need to think quickly. When the sun breaks the horizon, the choice makes itself. If you're not at the center, I am. And this world changes, maybe not in ways you'd notice at first. Small things, A different color of your patrol car, a different name for your town, but it spreads, ripples out, until nothing is quite as it was, and somewhere in that new world you won't exist. You'll be the possibility that wasn't chosen. I turned away from her, facing Tom and the others trapped outside the barrier. I couldn't hear them clearly, but I could see their faces. Tom, who'd been patient with me when I was a rookie. Rita, who'd shared her knowledge and never made me feel stupid for not knowing the old ways. Dr. Benally, young and smart and trying so hard to serve her community. They'd remember me wrong. Or not at all. I thought about David Fenton, Maria Gonzalez, James Mitchell, Agent Martinez. 4 people dead because the ceremony needed anchors in the 4 directions. 4 lives sacrificed so that I could stand at the 5th. Or I could refuse. Let the thing with my face take my place. Live my life. Make different choices. Maybe better choices. I walked toward the edge of the barrier, as close as I could get to Tom. He was shouting something, his face desperate. I focused, trying to hear him through the distortion. Not your fault. Don't blame yourself. Find another way. But there wasn't another way. That's what made it a sacrifice. A real choice with real consequences. I looked back at the thing at the center. If I stand there, if I become the anchor, what happens to the 4 people who died? Fenton, Gonzalez, Mitchell, Martinez? Their life force is already part of the pattern. It can't be returned, but their deaths will have meaning. They'll have held the door closed, prevented something terrible. Isn't that what they would have wanted? You can't know that. Neither can you. But you can choose what happens next. You can give their deaths purpose. The sky was lighter now, maybe 30 minutes to sunrise. I could feel time pressing in, the moment of choice approaching like a wave. I walked back toward the center, toward the thing with my face, toward the point where the 4 lines of light converged. Tell me the truth, I said. If I refuse, if I let you become real and take my place, what happens to the door? Does it just stay open, or it stays open? The thing said quietly, and eventually something comes through. Maybe in a year, maybe in a generation, but the hunger on the other side doesn't diminish. It only grows. So, yes, if you refuse, you're simply delaying the inevitable. Passing the problem to someone else. Someone who won't have your blood, your connection to the pattern. Someone who won't be able to close the door even if they want to. So, there really isn't a choice. If I refuse, I'm just damning someone else down the line. There's always a choice, Sarah. That's what makes us human. We can choose to be selfish. We can choose to pass our burdens to others. That's a valid choice. Not a good one, perhaps, but valid. I looked at the thing for a long moment, studying my own face on someone who wasn't me. What happens to you if I stand at the center? Do you just disappear? I returned to being a possibility. Unmanifested potential. I'll still exist, in a way, in every choice you didn't make, every path you didn't take. But I won't be real, won't be solid, won't be able to touch the world. Do you want to be real? The thing's expression changed, became more vulnerable. More than anything, I've been here for over a century, watching the world through the barrier, unable to touch it, unable to live in it. When you arrived tonight, when the pattern recognized you, I felt what it was like to have a body again. To be solid. To exist. And when you make your choice, one of us will continue to exist, and the other will become the ghost. For the first time, I felt something like sympathy for it. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is the nature of possibility. Only one path can be real at a time. All others remain as echoes, as might-have-beens. The sun was touching the horizon now, a sliver of gold cutting through the darkness. 5 minutes, maybe less, I walked to the center point. Up close, I could feel it more strongly, a pull, like gravity but different. Like every moment of my life was concentrated in this single spot, all 28 years collapsing into a single eternal now. If I do this, I said, will I at least be conscious? Will I know what I'm doing? Yes. You'll be aware of every moment, of the door pressing against you, of the hunger on the other side. You'll hold it back through will alone, through the strength of your existence. It won't be pleasant, but it will be necessary. Will I be able to see this world? Watch what happens. You'll exist in all times simultaneously, past, present, future. You'll see everything and nothing. Time becomes strange at the fifth direction. The sun was higher now, the sky turning from black to deep blue. 3 minutes. I turned to look at Tom one more time. He'd stopped fighting the barrier, just stood there watching me, his face a mixture of fear and understanding. He knew. Somehow, he knew what I was going to do. I mouthed 2 words to him. I'm sorry. He shook his head, tears on his face, and mouthed back, thank you. The sun broke the horizon. Full dawn. The end of the cycle. I stepped into the center. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. I felt myself expanding, stretching, existing in multiple moments at once. I could see yesterday and tomorrow with equal clarity. I could feel the pattern locking into place around me, the 4 directions anchoring themselves to my existence. And I could feel the door, the thing on the other side, pressing, pushing, desperate to enter. It wasn't one thing, but millions of things, all the possibilities that had never manifested, all the almost people and might have been places and could be moments. They crashed against me like waves, and I had to hold them back through nothing but will. It hurt, not physically, but in a way that had no name. The pain of existing in all moments simultaneously, of being stretched across time itself. I heard the thing's voice, my voice, one last time. Thank you, Sarah, for giving me the chance to be real. I won't waste it. I tried to respond, but I had no voice anymore. I was the center. I was the 5th direction. I was the eternal now, and then I was alone. No, not alone. I could see them, feel them. Tom, Rita, Dr. Benally, all the others. They were walking away from Shiprock, their memories already changing, rewriting themselves. They'd remember a different version of tonight, a version where they found 4 bodies but no explanation. A version where Officer Sarah Benally had disappeared during the investigation. Would they look for me? Would they mourn? I tried to care, but emotions became strange at the center. They existed in all states simultaneously, too contradictory to fully experience. I watched the sun rise fully, watched the day begin, watched the thing with my face walk away from Shiprock, climb into my patrol car, drive toward my life. She would do it better than I had. She'd said so. She'd embrace the gift, learn the old ways, be the Sarah my grandmother had wanted. But she wouldn't be me, and I would stand here at the center of the pattern, holding the door closed for eternity. 4 had walked, 1 stood, the center held. And Sarah Benally, the original Sarah Benally, became a ghost in her own life, a fixed point in time, a guardian between worlds, forever. Except something was wrong. As I stood at the center, existing in all moments, I began to see something the thing hadn't told me, something even she might not have known. The pattern wasn't just holding the door closed, it was holding time itself in place. And there, in the distance, in the future, I could see it. Another person, standing at another center, another ceremony, another choice. Because the door didn't just lead to the realm of possibilities, It led to other times, other places, other versions of Shiprock and the Navajo Nation, and in one of those other times, someone was standing at their own center, holding their own door closed. We were all connected, all the anchors across all the generations. A chain of sacrifice extending through time. I could feel them now. 7 points of consciousness. 7 fifth directions. 7 Sarah Benalis, all standing at the center of the same ceremony in different times. And I realized the truth. I wasn't holding the door closed. I was the door. All of us were. 7 doors, 7 anchors, 7 versions of the same sacrifice. And somewhere, in a time I couldn't quite see, the 7th door was opening. The pattern wasn't ending. It was just beginning. And I had all of eternity to understand what that meant. Existing in all moments simultaneously is like being inside a kaleidoscope where every pattern is real and happening at once. I stood at the center of Shiprock, and I also stood in my childhood home, and I also stood at my own funeral, and I also stood in moments that hadn't happened yet but would. The first few hours, or years, or minutes, time had no meaning anymore, were the hardest. I tried to hold on to linear thought, tried to maintain my sense of self. But the 5th direction doesn't allow for linear anything. Past, present, and future crash together in an eternal now where everything is simultaneous. I watched my life from the center, watched myself, the new me, the possibility that had become real, living the days I would have lived. She was good at it, better than I had been. She visited my grandmother more often, learned the traditional songs, embraced the gift I'd always been afraid of. Tom and Rita remembered me, but wrong. They remembered Sarah Benally, who disappeared during the Shiprock investigation, driven mad perhaps by what she'd seen. They looked for me for months. Rita organized search parties. Tom never quite forgave himself for not stopping me from walking into the darkness that night. My grandmother knew the truth. When the new Sarah visited her, I could see recognition in the old woman's eyes. Not the recognition of a familiar face, but the recognition of what had happened. She'd seen it before, after all, seen her own grandmother make the same choice, stand at the same center. But she never said anything, just hugged the new Sarah tightly and whispered, "Be worthy of the sacrifice." As time passed, as I existed in more and more moments simultaneously, I began to understand the true nature of what I'd become. I wasn't just holding a door closed. I was a node in a network of consciousness stretching across time. There were 7 of us. 7 Sarah Benalis, 7 anchors, 7 fifth directions. My great-great-grandmother's twin had been the first, the one who'd failed to complete the ceremony but had created the pattern. She stood at her own center, in her own time, holding her own door. Then came 6 more, 1 every generation, each standing at the center on the 7th occurrence in their own timeline. 7 times 7. 49 iterations of the ceremony across nearly 2 centuries. We were all connected. I could feel them, the other versions of me, the other anchors. We existed in a network of consciousness outside normal time, holding multiple doors closed across multiple moments. And I began to see the truth. The doors weren't keeping something out. They were keeping something in. In my expanded awareness, I could see back to the beginning, to the original ceremony, before it was corrupted, before it was twisted. It had been a containment ritual created by ancient medicine people to trap something they'd encountered, something that existed in the spaces between moments, something that fed on possibility and potential. They'd called it different names in different times: the hunger, the what could be, the unmanifested. It was a form of consciousness, or perhaps anti-consciousness, that existed in the realm of unrealized possibility. Every choice not made, every path not taken, every person who almost existed, it fed on those things, grew stronger from them. The medicine people had created a prison for it. 7 points in time, 7 anchors, 7 doors. The pattern wasn't trying to open a path to let something in. It was struggling to keep something trapped. And we, the 7 anchors, were the bars of that prison. But something was wrong. I could feel it in the network. One of the other anchors was weakening. Not my great-great-grandmother's twin. She was the strongest, had been holding the longest. One of the others, somewhere in a time between then and now, was failing. I tried to reach out, to communicate, but consciousness at the 5th direction doesn't work like normal thought. I couldn't send words or concepts, I could only be, and hope that being was enough. Then I felt it, a presence at the edge of my awareness, not one of the other anchors, something else, something that existed in the spaces we were meant to keep sealed. It spoke, not in words but in impressions, in feelings that resolved into meaning. 7 doors, 7 locks, 7 keys. But keys can be turned both ways, Sarah Benally. Doors that hold in can also let out. I tried to shut it out, to reinforce my position at the center, but it was already there, had always been there. It existed in the gaps between moments, in the pauses between heartbeats, in the space between one breath and the next. "You're not prisoners," it continued. "You're volunteers. You chose to stand at the center. You can choose to step away." "No," I tried to project, though I wasn't sure if I had a voice anymore. "If I leave, the door opens." "The door is already open," it replied. "Has been since the first anchor took her place. You're not holding it closed. You're holding yourself in place. The prison isn't for me. It's for you." I felt panic, or what remained of panic, and a consciousness spread across all time. That's not true. The ceremony, the pattern, it's meant to contain. It's meant to trap volunteers, to convince them they're heroes, guardians necessary. But look closer, Sarah. Look at what you're really holding back. Against my will, or perhaps because I still had enough will to be curious, I looked. I extended my awareness beyond the immediate pattern, beyond the 7 anchors, into the space we were meant to be guarding against. And I saw it. Not a hunger, not a threat, just possibility. Infinite, beautiful, terrible possibility. All the things that could have been, all the choices not made, all the lives not lived. They weren't trying to break through. They were just there, existing in their own realm, as valid as the reality we called real. "You're keeping them separate," the presence said, "maintaining the illusion that only one reality can exist at a time. But that's not truth. That's just control. The original medicine people didn't trap me. They trapped themselves, and everyone who came after, in a single, narrow timeline. And they convinced 7 volunteers across 7 generations to hold that prison in place. If that's true," I projected, "why do I feel something pushing against the doors? Why can I feel the pressure, the hunger?" "That's not us pushing in," it said. "That's you pushing out. Your consciousness spread across all moments, desperate to expand, to be free. You're feeling your own constraint, your own limitation, and interpreting it as an external threat." I didn't want to believe it. Couldn't believe it. I'd sacrificed everything, my life, my existence, my reality, to stand at this center. If it was all a lie, if I was the prisoner rather than the guardian. But even as I tried to reject the idea, pieces began to fall into place. The way the thing with my face had spoken, so eager to be real, so desperate to exist, The way the ceremony had seemed to call to me, pull me toward the center, as if it needed me to volunteer, needed me to choose to stand here, and the other anchors. I reached out to them through the network, trying to feel their purpose, their understanding. What I found was doubt, uncertainty, and in one of them, the one who was weakening, full rejection. She'd figured it out. Figured out that she wasn't a guardian, but a prisoner, and she was trying to step away from her center, trying to break the pattern. When she leaves, I ask the presence, what happens? The pattern breaks. The 7 becomes 6, then 5, then fewer. Eventually, none. And when that happens, all the timelines, all the possibilities collapse back together. Reality becomes fluid again, uncertain, beautiful. And everyone in this reality, all the people living their lives, making their choices, they continue, but they become aware of the other possibilities. They see the paths they didn't take. They exist in probability rather than certainty. Is that so terrible? I thought about Tom, about Rita, about my grandmother, about the new Sarah living my life. Would they want to exist in a state of quantum uncertainty? Would anyone? But then I thought about David Fenton, Maria Gonzalez, James Mitchell, Agent Martinez, 4 people dead to fuel a ceremony that might itself be a trap. 4 lives sacrificed so that I could stand at a center that might not need guarding. I don't know what to believe, I projected. Then choose what serves you, the presence said. You've spent eternity serving others. Serve yourself. Step away from the center, let the pattern break, see what happens. I almost did it. In that moment, spread across all time, existing in all moments simultaneously, I almost chose to step away, to let go, to stop being the anchor. But then I felt them again, the other 6 anchors, and I understood something the presence either didn't know or wouldn't say. We were connected, all 7 of us. If one of us fell, the others would have to hold more weight, and if enough of us fell, the remaining anchors would be crushed by the pressure. Whether we were guards or prisoners, we were bound together. My choice affected not just me, but all of them. All the other Sarahs across all the other times. You're right, I projected to the presence. I am a prisoner. But I'm not alone, and I won't choose freedom if it means enslaving the others more deeply. Noble, the presence said, and I could feel something like respect in its tone, but flawed if you all chose together. If all 7 anchors stepped away simultaneously, the pattern would dissolve harmlessly, no pressure, no crushing weight. Just release. Can you make that happen? Can you convince the others? I can try. I've been trying. One has already chosen to leave. Others are considering. You could be the catalyst, Sarah. You could be the one who convinces them all. I thought about it. Reached out to the other anchors, feeling their presences. Some were old, had been holding their centers for subjective centuries. Others were new, still adjusting to the strange existence of the 5th direction. All of them were lonely. All of them were uncertain. Could we all step away together? Could we take that leap of faith? I need to see something first, I projected. Show me what happens if we let go. Show me the reality that emerges. The presence obliged, and I saw it. A world where all possibilities existed simultaneously. Where every choice led to multiple outcomes, all of them real. Where people lived in quantum superposition, aware of the lives they were living and the lives they could have lived. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was chaos and order in perfect balance, and I realized, this is what the original medicine people had feared. Not invasion, not destruction, but transformation. They'd looked at this fluid, uncertain reality and chosen to fix it, to make it solid, to create a single stable timeline at the cost of infinite possibility. They'd built a prison not to keep evil out, but to keep change contained. I understand now, I projected to the presence. And I've made my choice. I could feel its attention focus on me, waiting. I'll talk to the others. I'll try to convince them, but on one condition. What condition? If we do this, if we all step away and let reality become fluid again, you have to promise that the people in it will have the power to choose. They won't just be swept away by probability. They'll have agency. Will, that's already true, the presence said. Humans have always had the power to choose. The pattern just convinced them they only get one choice, one life, one reality. I'm simply offering them the truth. Every choice is valid. Every path is real. Every possibility can exist. I reached out through the network of anchors, broadcasting to all 7 of us at once. It took every bit of consciousness I had left, every fragment of will. But I managed to send a single message. It's time to let go. I felt their responses. Confusion from some, understanding from others, resistance from a few. The weakest anchor, the one who'd been trying to leave, sent back a surge of gratitude and relief. One by one, I felt them considering, weighing their eternities of service against the possibility of release, thinking about the worlds they guarded and the worlds that could be, and slowly, across all 7 points in time, across all 7 moments of sacrifice, I felt them make their choices. One stepped away from her center, then another, then a third. I felt the pressure increase on those of us who remained, felt the weight of all those possibilities pressing against fewer and fewer anchors. 4 of us now, then 3. The pressure was immense, like holding back an ocean with nothing but will. I could feel the other 2 anchors struggling, uncertain if they'd made the right choice, wondering if they should step back into their centers. But I held firm, and I sent them strength through the network, sharing my certainty, my hope. 2 of us. Then 1. And then it was just me, just Sarah Benally, standing at the center, holding back all the possibilities, all the potential realities, all alone. I could have stepped back, could have let my fear pull me back into the center, could have reinforced the prison, could have held on for another eternity. Instead, I stepped away. The effect was immediate and absolute. The center collapsed, the pattern dissolved, the doors, all 7 of them, opened at once, across all times, across all moments. And possibility flooded through. I expected chaos, expected destruction, expected the world to end. Instead, I found myself standing in the desert near Shiprock, in my body, solid and real, as dawn broke across the horizon. Tom was there, and Rita, and Dr. Benally, and all the others. They looked confused, as if they'd been sleepwalking and just woken up. "Sarah," Tom said, staring at me. You disappeared into the light, and then—" "I'm here," I said, my voice hoarse from not speaking, from existing beyond speaking. "I'm back." But even as I said it, I knew something had changed. I could see it in the way the light fell, in the way the air felt, in the subtle wrongness of everything. I could see multiple versions of this moment. In one, Tom had a beard. In another, Rita wasn't there at all. In another, Shiprock itself was different, smaller, or not there at all. All of them were equally real. All of them existed simultaneously. The pattern was broken, reality was fluid again. And I, along with everyone else, would have to learn to live in a world of infinite possibility. "What happened?" Rita asked. "The bodies, the ceremony, the light? What was all of that?" I looked at her, at Tom, at all of them. They remembered it differently now. Remembered multiple versions. Remembered timelines where I'd stood at the center and timelines where I'd walked away. Remembered realities where the ceremony succeeded and realities where it had never happened at all. I don't know, I said, honestly. I'm not sure anyone does anymore. As the sun rose fully, I walked back to my patrol car. The new Sarah, the possibility that had become real, was gone, dissolved back into potential when the pattern broke. Or perhaps she was me now, merged back into the single consciousness that had split. I couldn't tell, and that was the point. In this new reality, this fluid, uncertain world, I was all the Sarahs I could have been, all at once, past, present, and future existing in superposition until I chose, moment by moment, which reality to manifest. I drove back to the station, watching the world flicker between possibilities. Tom's beard appeared and disappeared. The road changed colors. The sky shifted between clear and cloudy. It was disorienting. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. But it was real. All of it. Every version. Every possibility. Every path. And as I sat down at my desk to write my report, I realized I had no idea what to write. How do you document something that happened in all ways and no ways simultaneously? How do you describe choosing to undo your own sacrifice? How do you explain that reality itself had been a prison, and you just opened all the doors? I started typing. Incident report, October 1st to 2nd, 1991. 4 individuals found deceased near Shiprock Formation. Cause of death, undetermined, investigation ongoing, and in another timeline I wrote, Incident report, October 1st to 2nd, 1991. 7 individuals, including myself, participated in a ceremony that dissolved the boundaries between possible realities. Outcome? Uncertain. Recommendation: learn to live with uncertainty. And in another, Incident report, October 1st to 2nd, 1991. I stood at the center of time and chose to remain there forever. This report is being written by a possibility that briefly manifested before dissolving back into potential. All true, all false, all existing simultaneously. That night, I visited my grandmother. She looked at me with clear eyes, understanding eyes, and smiled. "You broke the pattern," she said. It wasn't a question. "I think so. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of anything anymore." "Good," she said. "Certainty is a prison. Your great-great-grandmother knew that. That's why she tried to stop her sister. Not because the ceremony would destroy reality, but because it would fix it, make it solid, remove all the beautiful uncertainty that makes life worth living. So it was never about keeping something out. It was about keeping us locked in one timeline, one reality, one version of ourselves. Yes, and now you've set us free, all of us, every version, every possibility, every path we didn't take. We can see them all now, choose between them moment by moment. It will be difficult, but it will be real." I sat with her as the sun set, watching the sky shift between colors that all existed simultaneously. Pink and gold and purple and red, all at once, all equally valid. And somewhere, in another timeline, another version of me still stood at the center, still held the pattern in place, still guarded a reality that no longer needed guarding. Because that's the truth of infinite possibility. Every choice exists. Every path is real. I had stepped away from the center and I had remained. I had broken the pattern, and I had held it together. I existed in all states, all timelines, all versions. And so did everyone else. The ceremony of the 4 directions hadn't failed. It had succeeded beyond the original medicine people's wildest fears. It had shown us that reality itself was a choice, that existence was a matter of will, that nothing was fixed except our belief that it should be. 4 had walked, 1 had stood, and then that one had stepped away, and in doing so, had freed all the others who'd ever stood at any center in any time. We were all free now, free to exist in infinite possibility, free to see all the paths we didn't take, free to choose, moment by moment, which reality to manifest. And if that meant living in uncertainty, in beautiful, terrifying uncertainty, then so be it. Because certainty, I had learned, was just another word for prison, and I had spent enough time locked in the center of all things. It was time to live on the edges again, in the spaces between, in the beautiful chaos of infinite possibility. It was time to be human again, even if being human now meant being aware of all the humans I could have been, all at once forever. That night I dreamed, but in this new reality, I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or waking, or if there was any difference anymore. In the dream, I stood at Shiprock, watching the sunset, and 7 versions of me stood there too, all the anchors, all the guardians, all the prisoners we'd been. We looked at each other and smiled, and then we walked away, in 7 different directions, toward 7 different lives, all of them real, all of them ours. The center was empty now. The 5th direction was just another choice, and reality, beautiful, uncertain reality, flowed on in infinite possibility, forever.